Beginning our Daf Mesechtes Nazir Daf Yomi. Begin on 4 lines down at the top of the Yommi. We're in the middle of a discussion, as we're going to shortly explain, regarding this halacha of Hareini Nazir Shili Ben, regarding order and what is inherent in those kabbalah. So we're discussing today's Daf are these cases of Hareini Nazir la'achar esem yom. The question that Rav had asked. I'm a Nazir after 20 days, but he also says Ma'achshav Nazir Shleishim, which we didn't say that explicitly in our Gemara, but the Gemara had said that that's Nazir is Mu'etes is included in his question. The question is, what's the halacha? What do you do? Do you start it now and then you stop for 30 days and then you go ahead and then you finish off the 10 days after, or do you say not? Additionally, the Gemara is going to ask a very interesting question. How do we look at you if you took a Naziris for yourself and when your son's going to be born? When you stop in the Naziris of your son and you become tummy, what's it going to hack up? Is it going to hack up only the son's Naziris or your own because you're Lamais to your middle, but you're not in middle because you stopped? So that's the Gemara's question with Nippa b'mei b'nai. Also, Nippa b'yem gidul sar is going to be a very similar type of an interesting question. What happens if, let's say, you really finished your Naziris, but as we said, you have to have a gidul sar 30 days. So let's say you did already 20 days, you stopped for 30 days, you have 10 days left, but otherwise you cut your hair for the son's Naziris. But you say, so you have to make up 10 days, but you got to go 30 days because you can't do a hair cutting less than 30 days. If you become tummy during the days of a Gidul Sa, what halacha would that have? Would that
the same question, and we had the Gemara a couple of ago, that if someone gets tumor the last day and he only has 7 days.
Oh, so right. So that also comes up in today's daf regarding B'yoim Malais is one specific halacha. Then there's Toich Malais. Malais just means like the total amount. And there's La'acha Malais. So this case, another shekal layamav. You already finished your days. What's called la'acham alais, but you didn't do the procedures yet. So asli galech lishtas yayim atam meisam, and there's going to be discussion regarding what happens if you do it during when you're already done already. So that's what I'm saying. What you bring up is what's called yom malais, the final day.
What I'm saying is that we had.
We had on the final day.
That was machlokes whether
Yister lamed, yister exactly, yeah. But that's on the yom malais. Then there's toich malais and there's la'acha malais. So that's this case of kol yom. We're going to see that come up in today's daf. Also, the halacha. What's important in today's daf is the halacha in gidul sapach and yom that you can't do even if, let's say, the guys forcibly shave off your hair and they say you're going to be a nazir. We're going to show you, and you get bullied in school, and then they cut off your hair. So even if you had 2 more days left to finish, you can't. You have to have a growth of hair of 30 days. So we started on the previous daf like this. We had the Mishnah. Mishnah said, if someone says, I'm a Nazir when I'm going to have a son, and I'm a Nazir. Okay, so he took 2 Nazirs. One when he's going to have a son, and one generally he's a Nazir. So he didn't have a son yet, so he started his own Nazirs. Then he has a son born to him. So the Mishnah said, okay, you've got to stop your Nazirs, and you got to start counting the one of your son, because that was the one that you took first. And then you go ahead and you finish your own. Because Nazir has been a kibbutz baresh, like Taisa explains. Rav had a question, what happens in Nazir is mu'etis? Again, we didn't have these words in the Gemara, but from the Gemara's answer, we see that this is the order of Rav's question. It says, let's say a guy says, I'm a Nazir after 20 days. But from now, I'm a Nazir for 30 days. What's the halacha? Do we say that it's going to take effect immediately, the second Naziris, because, he doesn't mind stopping his Naziris, but after he finishes both of them is only when he cuts his hair and brings his kabbanas, because he wouldn't be able to finish up his 10 days left, because you have to have a growth of 30 days. So you would do the son's Naziris, don't do the haircut, finish up your 10 days, and then do the hair cutting for both of them. Or do we say, no, the second Naziris does not take effect immediately because he's not going to finish in 20 days, and then he'll have second Naziris. He doesn't want to stop in the middle. So therefore, and then there's that chof yom yipenuya. No, he means to say that these 20 days will be drinking and having a good time, and then he'll start that 30 days, and then he'll do his 30 days afterwards. Then that's where really the Gemara is saying, even if we assume that we're going to Naziris mu'etes, it's not chamei because no. A guy would not be mafsin Naziris because all you have left is 10 days, and you wouldn't. It's not a significant amount. It's not a Naziris b'fnei atzmoi to say that that's what you're going to finish after the Naziris of your 30 days of a son. No. So rather, what you do is you go ahead and you do you wait 20 days, do 30, and then you do another 30. But the question was in the case of Naziris meruba, which was really the case that Rav had asked, but it was what's called chad migoy chadu kamibayli. He was asking one from another question. Let's say Nazir meruba. He says, "Arin nazir la'ach esem yom, ume'achshem meya yom." Oh, here's a little bit different. Because maybe you say loy chal, and no, because beson loy sham, and then in diet lavs because Nazir doesn't want to stop in the middle. But no, maybe you say it is chal because his das is to be mafsik naziris because you'll be left with 80 days, which is it's fit for its own naziris. That was the question. That's what we're up to right now, 4 lines down from the top of the Amud. Some don't even have the gears of these next Pimtim Tzalem Chayli, but we have it. And the Gemara says like this. Again, remember, we had asked the question of Rava, which is where we left off with, when you have the Nazir's Maruba of I'm a Nazir after 20 days and I'm a Nazir 100 days starting right now. Is it Chal or is it Nachal? Says the Gemara, if you say that it does take effect, meaning whether a Nazir is more etis, as Taisa explains, this is Dibri Masla Imtim Tzalem because there's a few confusing Dibri Maslas over here. Whether it's Nazir is more etis or whether it's Nazir is Meruba, it's going to take effect right now. Because when you reach day 20 and Nazir takes effect, it's not such a hefsek. Meaning, you're still doing the same procedures, the same no hair cutting, same no drinking wine, very similar to your 100-day Naziris. So if you're going to say it takes effect right now, but what happens if he says, let's switch it up a little bit. He says, Hareini Nazir Achachaf Yom, same thing, same first Kabbalah, I'm going to Nazir after 20 days. Ume'achshav Nazir Oilam. And from now I'll be an eternal Nazir. Whoa, here, if you're going to tell me that right now is going to take effect his Nazir Oilam, so the Nazirs after 20 days is not the same thing. That would be considered as quote-unquote a hefsek. Because the Nazir is, a regular generic Nazir is not the same as Nazir Oilam. Nazir Oilam is forever. He has different halachas. So maybe even if we would say that in our questions from the previous daf, it is chal right now, but in this case, no, maybe he would not be Nazir Oilam at all until he first finishes that other Nazirs of the post 20 days. So the first 20 days actually he's going to be permitted to drink wine and do the taglachas and do tumah. That's tzad number one. Or maybe no. Maybe even when he takes Nazir Oilam, it will take effect right away. And when day 20 comes, he'll count the regular Nazirs of 30 days, cut his hair, which, as Tais explains, according to the one who holds Nazir Oilam lightens his hair every 30 days or after 1 year, either opinion, but it is similar to the Nazir's Oilam that he started. So it's not really a hefsek of his Naziris because, as Tais explains, another svar, because Lamaisi, you could be shoyl on your Nazirs of 30 days. So you would be able to do your Nazir's Oilam that you started before and without stopping. So therefore, maybe it would be Aser. And even if you weren't shoyl on the Nazirs of 30 days, it will take effect in Nazir's Oilam from right now. Which Tais says, really, the Gemara could have asked, if he says, I'm a Nazir after 30 days, after 20 days, a Nazir Oilam, and now a regular Naziris. Tais is not bothered, he doesn't care about the order. But be that as it may, the Gemara is basically asking, will it take effect of this, when you say Nazir Oilam, what's the halacha? As the Gemara explains, Michayla, will the Naziris take effect right now? Oiloi, or will it not take effect right now? Which the Nazir Oilam has a halacha that if his hair is very heavy, he lightens it, he brings 3 different animals. So that's question number 1. And again, the reason why we're saying it's as another question is because a regular Nazir is 100 days or 30 days or whatever, they're both the same. So maybe it's not a hefsek. So maybe you will start right now. But Nazir Oilam is very different than the regular Naziris. Maybe you would not start it right now, or maybe no, even there. Lamaisa, it's not so different, because you do cut your hair also by Nazir Oilam when it gets too heavy. And also, you could be shoyl on the Naziris of the 30-day Naziris that was supposed to take, so you could really start and never stop. So even if you're not shoyl, maybe it will take effect.
Why don't they just force him to be shoyl?
Why?
That way you don't have any.
Yeah.
You made a neder that kind of like.
Yeah, but I don't know if we have a problem with it. The only question is, what is the guy's intention? That's really what we're asking. Would a guy want to do this or not? So that's actually, so the Gemara brings in this halacha of being shoyl. He says like this, that imtim tzaloi mahacha, if you're going to say over here, meaning the case of Nazir Oilam, even the efshel itshulei, since it is possible to be shoyl, in other words, you could go ahead and ask regarding the Naziris that's supposed to take effect after 20 days. Oh, so maybe over there, Chayla, it will take effect in Nazir Oilam. And that from right now, he could be shoyl on Naziris of post 20 days. And if it's not going to be a hefsek in your Naziris of Nazir Oilam, so therefore we view it as if, like, okay, in other words, even if we're going to entertain to say that a guy would never want to be mafsik, not necessarily have to be mafsik because you could be shoyl on it. You could go to the Rav and say, look, I took two nazirs, I took a nazir oilam, and I took a nazirs after 20 days. He says, I regret the nazir of the post 20 days. So fine, no problem, just keep your nazirs oilam. So since it's not inherently that you have to be mafsik, maybe it would take effect. But my question is regarding the next case. Amarini nazir shimshin lach esamim. If let's say he says, I'm going to take a nazir shimshin after 20 days, actually knows this time, and now from today I want to be a regular nazir. Now, what's the halacha over there? What's the question? So Gemara explains here. It's different because hachal efshel chule. You cannot be shoyl on a nazir shimshin. So would you say michayla? So then, would the regular generic naziris take effect, or not? As Tais explains, here most definitely you cannot be shoyl on nazir shimshin to take effect. That's going to take effect in 20 days from now. So therefore, maybe the stam naziris should not take effect in these 20 days. Why? Because you cannot finish in these 20 days your generic naziris, which is 30 days long, and therefore maybe you'll be permitted in the wine the time of the mason in these 20 days, and then you'll start nazir shimshin. Now there's actually two different gesayos. Talk about gesayos that in our regular gears it takes make it sound like that. Okay, so obviously these 20 days you're not doing a regular naziris because you can't be shoyl. The whole svara we had was why you would start something now, even though something be interrupting, and you wouldn't want to do that. It's because you could be shoyl on that thing that's going to come 20 days from now, and therefore, okay, even if you're not going to be shoyl, fine, we view it as if not necessarily. Obviously, hey, you can't. Nazir shimshin, there's no shayla on that. So maybe it will be doicha the stam naziris because you can't complete it. But the problem, the thing in Merav Ranchberg has a different gersa, and you have to know what the source of all these gesaris are. He has not the b'yitcha but medachal. That's what he says, I should say. In other words, what he means to say is maybe those 20 days you can be permitted in wine and tama and giluach. Then after 20 days he'll start the stam naziris of 30 days, and from the fact that the stam naziris takes effect, then afterwards will take effect nazir shimshin. Okay, you have to know exactly, but our girsa also would seem to make sense that 20 days you're not going to be able to do it. 20 days from now the nazir shimshin is starting, so you're never going to get a chance to finish your regular naziris. So therefore, do we say that since you can't finish it, a person is makbid on this hefsek naziris and he's never going to do it? Or maybe no. At the end of the day, the stam naziris will take effect within these 20 days. And although you cannot cut your hair at the end of 10 days, which is after the 20 days, because nazir shimshin is taking effect, but lamaisa, whatever the naziris you could do, you'll do. For example, the isayayin, tam lamesim, and then afterwards you'll stop the naziris and you'll stop nazir shimshin because the person is not particular about stopping his naziris. That's the Gemara's question regarding nazir shimshin. Now, however, says Taisus, the Gemara cannot have asked that over here. Well, let's say the guy says, "I'm a stam nazir after 20 days, and from now I'm a nazir shimshin." Meaning, why? The question says Taisus was particular. All the other questions Taisus said, "Lav dafka." It could be this order, that order. Here, Taisus it had to be the way we're asking that in 20 days from now I'm going to be nazir shimshin, but from now I want to be nazir stam. Why? Because if he took it the other way around, I want to be a stam nazir from 20 days from now, and now a nazir shimshin. Most definitely, the nazir shimshin would take effect right away, because you could be shoyl on the stam nazirs after 20 days, so you'll be shoyl on it, and it's not going to be hefty in the nazir shimshin. So that's not that we didn't have a question for sure that would work, and that you wouldn't have the stam nazirs after that. Now, additionally, says Taisus, the question we're asking now is not applicable by the previous case of nazir oilam. For example, let's say he said, "I'm a nazir oilam after 20 days from now," which is what we said for the nazir shimshin, and now regular nazir, because most definitely over there, the stam nazirs would take effect right now. Because again, you could be shoyl on nazir oil, which comes after 20 days to be shoyl, and then you'll be able to finish your stam nazirs. Because dafkan nazir shimshin is the Gemara's question, because you can't be shoyl, as we see in the Gemara Makkas, the Bezim and Aleph, the nazir shimshin you cannot be shoyl on, a nazir oil you could be shoyl on. So that's our question, is the fact that you can be shoyl significant enough to say that, okay, you don't like being mafsik, but you don't have to be mafsik, just be shoyl on it. But nazir shimshin you cannot be shoyl on it, so would we say then, okay, you're going to have to be mafsik, so okay, I don't care, and therefore I'm going to still do whatever I could do in these 20 days, or do you do care, and therefore you're not be makabel anything? So these are gradations in the question. Again, the whole question is, do you care, do you don't care? But maybe this is not really considered caring, because I'm not going to have to be mafsek. I can be shoyl on the nazir zayl.
In the middle of the nazir?
Yeah. On the one that didn't take effect yet. If I said nazir zayl should be 20 days from now, and right now I want to do regular nazirs of 30 days. When I'm in, let's say, day 10 of my regular nazirs, I say, I see looming 10 days from now is coming this nazir zaylam. I go to the Rav and I say, Rabbi, I didn't. No, nazir shimshin you cannot be shoyl on.
No, but he says like this.
Right.
So
Right.
he can start his stam nazirs now.
That's the question. Would he do that?
And 20 days, it can be shoyl on his Nazir stuff.
No, what do you mean? What do you mean? Why would he? What does that mean? What to be sure on what he did? I mean, maybe if you could do that, but what's the point of that?
What's the point of his kabudas anyway?
No, because the question the Gemara was asking was regarding the Nazir Shim. In other words, the question is, would I do something that I'm going to have to stop? That's really the main question. And the question is, by anything but Nazir Shimshin, you might not have to stop it. What do you mean? I said 20 days from now is going to be something else. Yeah, but you could be shoyl on that. So maybe I would accept to start this thing right now, because I will be able to finish it. People want to get stuff finished. Don't stop me with another project if I finish this project. What? Well, no, Nazir Shimshin is just for life.
Right.
But I said that should be 20 days from now. What's with these 20 days now? I said, Hareinu Stam Jetzt. What do you really want to take that on? Or would you really not? Would you say, yeah, because I don't mind stopping, hacking up what I started in the middle and not being able to finish? Or say, no, you only do something that you can finish. So by Nazir Eilam, you can finish it because you can be shy on it. On the next thing that's going to kick in day 20. So it's not like I won't be able to finish it. I might be able to finish it. Nazir Shimshon not going to be able to finish. So that's like the most hardcore question. Look, you're going to be mafsik. Would you be makabel or not? That's the question. The other ones...
If I'm being makabel on myself, Naziris, and 20 days later I'm starting
Nazir Shimshon.
It doesn't make any sense. I'm actually saying something that's not physically possible.
But maybe
Once I'm saying something not physically possible, everything I'm saying is...
So Taisus explains, he says, no, maybe guy, although you're not going to be able to finish it, but for 20 days I want to be able to not drink wine, I want to be able to, yeah, that's what I want to do. I know I'm going to be mafsik, but I may be makabel anyway. Or maybe no, a person would not be makabel something that's mafsik. That is the question. Would a guy be makabel something that you can't do all the way? No, he's not going to be able to, no, he's nazir for the rest of his life. So he's going to have nazir shim, so he can't cut his hair.
But there are certain...
He's not going to be able to bring a carbon, but whatever I could do. After that, after 20 days, I'm not going to be able to fire. I'll be stuck. That's the question. That's the Gemara's question. Would a guy do such a thing? Now, another case, says the Gemara, is what's if Amar, let's say he says, K'moishe b'shiv ba'adamai. What's halacha if he says, I'm like Moshe Beinu on the 7th of Adar? What's halacha? What is the question? Does he mean to say the day of Moshe Beinu's birth, which was on 7th of Adar, which they were very happy? Now, the day that he died was also 7th of Adar. Mistama, many people took Nadarim, and they made themselves Nazirim because of the pain that he died. Now this guy just said, Stam, I'm going to be like Moshe Rabbeinu on the 7th of Adar. So the question is it like the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu that on the 7th of Adar, that when he died they accepted Naziris? Or maybe he means like the day that he was born, which they were just very happy. That's the question. What does he mean to say? Now, tell you it's a little bit difficult because we have a Manda Amid Zvachim that says that the Jews were not able to bring the Dom and the Davis on the Bama. So those people, if they took a ned of Naziris when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, then that means they're Nazir all their lives, and they weren't able to bring karbanis because those are not things that were needed and needed. They were able to be brought, and there was no heter, also in Shiloh, only by Shiloh, whatever this and that. And also we have a difficulty by Naziris of Shalom that he was bringing his karbanis. Where were they bringing karbanis? So Tess just said that's a little bit difficulty about what do you mean? How were they Nazirim then? There was no way of even fulfilling Naziris. But be that as it may, that's the Gemara's question. What does he mean by Shiv Ba'ada? So the Gemara says, okay, we can't answer all the questions, but Pasha Minayu Kadmaisa. The first question you asked, I can answer, which was that of Rava from the previous daf. What was the question? So the Brisa says...
One second. The Shiva Ba'ada, so the suffix is, did you mean a Nuzir or not?
Right. Did you mean the day Moshe Rabbeinu died or the day he was born?
The day he was born is not. The Muda here said that if someone has a son and he wants to as a Shevach Leidua, he wants to...
Right, Kishli Ben, the Shevach Leidua, he's going to go ahead and be a Nazir. What?
Must be a Nuzir. So either way it's a Nuzir.
Oh, you mean to say, I hear, you're asking that maybe he's so happy that it was Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday that he's accepting a Naziris even if the...
Just like someone's
I hear. You're asking that, who said that it wouldn't be a... I mean, Lamaisa, at the end of the day, most people, it sounds like from the Gemara and the Nazir, a few places, that when there's a difficulty, then people accept upon themselves Nedav Naziris. You're right, this guy was so happy, he's accepting Nedav Naziris, you have to know, is that Shvach V'Vaidah, there's been a Nazir, same thing as celebrating Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday, that he's saying that I'm going to be a Nazir. Okay, yeah. Now, says Gemara, Pashman Kadmaisa. Let's answer the first question we asked from the following Bryce. The Bryce says like this: Hareini Nazir Lachesem Yoim. I'm a Nazir 20 days from now. Ume Achshav Meir Yom. So it's exactly the question that Rav had asked is a Brysa. The Brisa says, Rabbi's case. If someone says I'm a Nazir after 20 days, I'm from now 100 days, says the Brisa, Moina Eschim. So answers our question. You haped on yet, you count 20 days. Then you count 30 days. And again, this is what we said, you count only the remaining 80, but not 50, but 80. And the reason is to complete the first Nazir is, again, that answered the question of Rava. You have two. Because you can no, you will have lahashlam. Because cutting here is not mafsik. Cutting here just says that you're going to have to, when we say saiser, is only for gidul zah, and you'll have gidul because you have 80 days left. Yeah. Now here's where it gets a little interesting. Gemara gets creative over here regarding the halachas of this interruption which we're doing. As Taisa explains, this is going on the halacha of the Mishnah. It said in the Mishnah, if he took a naziris for himself and he took for his son, so we said, okay, maneicha shaloi, you have to stop your own, you count that of your son, and then you finish your own. So now the Gemara has an interesting question. What happens if nitma b'mei b'noi? What happens? Remember, you started your own, we made you stop because the son's Kabbalah was first, you do the son's, and then you go back to yours afterwards. What happens if during the days of naziris that you're doing for your son, you then become tummy? Now, if you're one of the basic halachas of naziris is if you become tummy, it's seiser, it undoes the whole thing. So what happens to your naziris? Meaning they're both your naziris. Just one's your regular nazir, one's the one you do because you had a baby. The naziris that you took for yourself, what happens to that naziris? Machlokes amiram. B'Yochanan says seiser, it undoes that naziris. Shlakish says ina seiser, it does not undo it. As Taisa explains, according to Shlakish, nafkamin is regarding if you become tummy during the days of your son, so it's not going to undo his own naziris because that's a separate naziris, and he stopped it for now. It's on pause. According to Rabbi Yochanan, no, it's also going to be seiser his oaths because when you stopped your own and you counted your sons, you're still in the middle of your count, and when you're demolishing your sons, you're demolishing also your own count because you never finished your counting. And if you'd be counting two separate counts, two individually, one he finishes on his own, and then he counts his sons for his own, and he becomes tummy during the one of his son, of course it would not demolish his own counting because he already finished his own counting until he didn't even start his counting of his son. But here you're in the middle of your counting. Now, Rish Lakish says, no, it's only seiser in the nazirs of his son, but what he counted from his own is not seiser. But in regarding the reish of the Mishnah, where the guy says, I'm a nazir and a nazir when I have a son, where he counts his own and then he counts one of his sons, yes, of course, says Taisa, if he'd be tummy the days of his son, everyone would agree it's only says the one of his son because he already finished his totally. But here, when he's in the middle of his own and you stop in the middle, that's the Gemara's question, what would be the halacha? And that's Machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. The Gemara explains. Rabbi Yochanan says, yes, it demolishes his own because Chad Nazir, it's one long Naziris because you're only going to cut your hair only when you finish yours and your sons. And now that means you're in the middle of your Naziris. But most definitely, as Taisa explains, as we'll see, if you become tummy, well, he says basically, we said that you started your own, you stopped for the kid. Let's say you become tummy in the days when you're completing your own. Then, says Taisa, obviously, then it would only be Taisa, his, not the one of his sons, because you already finished the ones of his sons. No, because you didn't really do the hair cutting procedure yet. But the mice are not in the middle of it yet. But here, it would be Taisa your own because it's one long one, at least for the one of your own. Rish Lakish says, no, Ina says, we're not demolish your own because Nazir is the day l'chud, but the v'rei l'chud. No, yours is separate and your son's is separate. I paused, but I'm not in the middle of it right now. So be interesting how you view this, if you're in the middle of it, is it one thing or is it not? Now, if we continue to Beis, we get more creative also. What happens if nitmo b'mei tzaratoi? What happens if, let's say, he says, I'm a Nazir today. He starts counting his Naziris, and then he becomes a Mitzayra. Now, what's interesting about, as we'll see later on, Daf Yudzayin Beis, when a person is a confirmed Mitzayra, it doesn't count for his days in Naziris, but it's not Tzayir either. And now it becomes, which is very important, obviously, because how do we view this as part of his Naziris or not? Then it becomes Tomei Mes during the days when he's a confirmed Mitzayra. Here also we have Machlokes. Rabbi Yochanan says, Saisa, Maisa bist mitten your Naziris, you're on day 23, whatever it is. Shlakish says, no, ain't a Saisa, it's not going to be Saisa. Why? According to Shlakish, it's not demolishing the first days that he counted the Naziris before he became a Mitzayra. because mitzaras is its own independent thing. When he purifies himself from mitzaras, he's going to cut his hair, bring his kabbanas on mitzayach, and he's going to go ahead and finish up his counting of nazirs as he stopped. But Rabbi Yochanan says, the Gemara says, you're middle of your naziris. You didn't count yet your 100 days. And when you purify yourself from tzaras, you have to start all over your whole days of naziris because you became tamei. Becoming tamei is saisi naziris. Shlach Shami says, no, it's not demolishing your naziris because tzaras l'chad naziris l'chad. It's like a Switzerland. It's like nothing to do with anything. Although I'm in the middle, but I'm not actually counting my nazirs right now. So therefore, it's not going to be saisi. Now the Gemara wonders, which it says it in a statement, v'tzricha. Now you had to tell me the same machlekes Rabbi and Shlokish by seemingly both the same idea regarding the son's naziris and the tzaras, which really they're both the same concept. That you have something else in between. Do we view it as part of it or not? Says the Gemara, because the Yed Mebachkamai said we only said the first halach of the son. But here Rabbi Yochanan says, I would say over there Rabbi Yochanan says in the Mal says no, because Shem naziris. My it's all one naziris. Okay, you took it for yourself. You took it because you had a baby. Whichever one, still one naziris. But in the case of the tzaras, I would say he agrees to Rish Lakish because the nazil l'chod, the tzaras l'chod, they're different things, they're different entities, they're different realities. But yet, and we said the case of tzaras, I would say over there Rish Lakish says there's not going to be seisa. Regarding the case of the son, I would say that he agrees to Rabbi Yochanan that it's one type of naziris and that it would be seisa. So tzricha divi had to say both cases. Now another creative idea. The Gemara asks another similar question. And the Gemara is going to be toilet again, machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Shlokish. What happens if nitma b'yom gidul sa? What is this talking about? So Tez explains. Let's say a guy said, I'm a nazir for 30 days. He counts 20 days of naziris, and then what happens is that, the fraternity guys, they grab him, and they say, this is the initiation for the fraternity, and they go and they forcibly shave off all his hair. Now, when he gets to day 30 of the naziris, he can't do the hair cutting ceremony and bring his karbanas. He's got to wait 30 days for when they cut off his hair. Because we know that halacha is you can't have gidul sar less than 30 days. So what happens if, interesting, he starts counting 30 days. What could he do, right? He's got to count, he only had 10 days left, but he's got to count 30 days now. Now, he already did 10 days, so his nazir is really ended. Because he already started counting 20 days before they cut off his hair. These last 20 days are only for the hair growth that he could then cut it to bring his karbanas. What happens if in those 20 days he becomes tamei? Now Tez just points out, why are you saying the singular yom gidul sar? Why it doesn't say the word bimei, like we said before, bimei tzaratoi? So Tez says no, because tzaras is always more than one day. So inevitably it's going to be the days of tzaras. But gidul sar could be, it's only lengthening his nazirs on one day because it could be that the bandits grabbed him on day 2 of his nazirs, which would only be adding on to the 30 days one more day for the growth of the hair. So we'll say in the singular of day. But what's the halacha in that case? So interesting, the Gemara says it's actually a machlokes amaram in the machlokes amaram. So it's a machlokes in the machlokes. What do you mean? So Rav Amma, he says, ein esaisa. No. Everyone agrees. In this case, it's not going to undo his days of naziris, as he explains. Afil Rabbi Yochanan says, even according to Rabbi Yochanan says in the previous cases of B'nai and Tzaras, that it is going to be saisa what he counted before. Hanamila, that's told my hechad koy naziris. You're in the middle of your naziris. You're interrupted. You put on pause. L'maisa, you're in the middle of your naziris. But gidul sa mission nazirisu, the growth of the hair is just addendum. You finished your naziris already, so it's not going to be saisa. With Shmuel, he says, punkt fakert. He says, no, it's gonna be seiser, afil Rish Lakish. Even when Rish Lakish that he says, ain't seiser, then in those cases not demolishing. You know why? Because Hasam shtein nazirais. Those are two different naziras of his son and his own, and also when he was tummy in the days of Tzaras, naziris was one thing and Tzaras was something else. But Hachachad and Nazirusa, here, it's the same nazirais. You're right, you have it because of Gidul Zah, but Lamais you're mitten in the naziris. So we have Machlekes Amaram, in the Machlekes Amaram, what the halacha would be in this case of Gidul Sa. Now, another interesting case, says the Gemara. Amar Rav Chizda. Chizda says, Hakol Moedim, says, everyone agrees, which Tais in the moment is going to say, who's everyone? Shem Kidesh Seyar Badam. What does that mean? Sanctifying the hair and blood? What does that mean? So Tais explains. If after that the blood of the carbon was already sprayed, we're getting ready to get this guy ready, he's done with his nazirs, he becomes tamei before they cut his hair. Now, Taisa explains why is that called kiddush sar, meaning kiddush sar bedam. Dam is the dam of the carbon, and kiddush sar, What does Kiddush Shar? So it says Kiddush Shar means that you didn't cut your hair yet. So that's not cutting the hair and the blood was already sprayed. That you could translate the words of the Gemara. Why is not cutting hair called Kiddush Shar? Because the pasuk says V'Kiddush Roshai. What does V'Kiddush Roshai means to say? That he should start growing his hair now. That's the beginning of his Naziris. V'Kiddush Roshai. So Kiddush Roshai means you didn't cut your hair. It's growth of the hair. So Kiddush Roshai B'Dam means to say the blood of the carbon was already sprayed, but the hair was still growing. You didn't cut it yet. And then it becomes Tamei. Okay, says Rav Chizda, in Takana. There's no remedy to this guy. Now the Gemara assumes this guy for the rest of his life cannot drink wine, cannot take a haircut, because problem is you already brought your carbon, but now you became tummy before you cut your hair. Now, without bringing a carbon, you cannot cut your hair. And you already brought the carbon. You can't bring a carbon again. Bichul mazara. Stuck. That's what the Gemara assumes right now. But says the Gemara, wait a second. I'll leave it out. Who are you going like in this halacha that you're telling me? If you're going like Rabbi Lezer, he says the hair cutting is critical to allow you to drink wine. If you didn't cut your hair yet, as you just described in the case, and it's ma'akiv, then toich malesi, that's what we were saying the terminology before. That means to say, you're not really toich malesi, you really finished your naziris, but it's as if you became tummy before you brought the kabbanas, which is within your, let's say, 30 days. Because you didn't really finish yet. You didn't do the hair cutting. And therefore, velister. Now, how to translate that, the way Toisa says it, is like this. He says, in other words, you should be allowed to go back and bring karbanis again. Because the Mishnah teaches later on the Memdaim and Aleph, if someone had one of the bloods of the karbanis thrown in them and it becomes tummy, Rabbi Lezer says, soiser esakol. The Gemara says, how could you say soiser esakol? Rabbi Lezer said, anytime it's achar malais, when you already finish your 30 days, it's only soiser 7 days. So the Gemara says, and that's what Tais is saying, what our Gemara means also, when we say soiser, what do we mean? It means it's just soiser karbanaisav. It's not soiser the whole naziris. And therefore, after he purifies himself, which just takes 7 days to purify, then you can bring your karbanas. So Tais says, that's also over here. When we say soiser, we don't mean it's soiser everything, because Rabbi Lezer says later on, become tummy day 30, it's only 6 or 7 days. So Tais explains, when we're saying in the Gemara's question is saying, why is this guy stuck for the rest of his life? According to Rabbi Lezer, it should be soiser what? Not the whole naziris. Soiser the karbanis, and then just become pure, and then bring another one. So what's the problem? You're teich malais because tegalach is ma'akevis. You didn't finish yet. Says the Gemara, okay, no, lo yom the rabbanon. No, Rav Chizda was saying according to rabbanon, and says the Gemara, my in le takana. Oh, so the Gemara skipped. So the Gemara says, elib the rabbanon. No, we're going like the rabbanon. Question is, wait a second. According to rabbanon, also it doesn't make sense. Ha'amri tegalach is ma'akevis. They say the hair cutting is not critical to drink wine. So if you brought your gabanas, so you're allowed to be matam l'meis. You're allowed to drink wine without doing the hair cutting because it's not critical. So you're already done. If you became tummy before the haircut, no, okay, shkayach, you're done already. So the Gemara says, you're right. We're going like Rabban. What does Rav Chizda mean to say there's no remedy? You lost out on the mitzvah of the hair cutting. Because since you already brought your kabbanas, you can't bring anymore. You're already done. And right away you're permitted to drink wine without doing the hair cutting procedure. And Taisa explains, when Rav Chizda said, Hakol Maidim, it was going on this, why did we bring it here? It's going back in the previous machlokes, Rav and Shmuel. They had a machlokes regarding if you become tummy b'yom gidul sar on the, let's say, the extra days of just the hair growing. If it's going to be seiser, here we became tummy before the hair cutting. They agree both that it's not going to be seiser because it's like you already did the hair cutting because it's not critical according to Rabbanan. So therefore, it's not going to be seiser anything. That's what Rav Chizda meant to say. It's just like you lost opportunity to do the mitzvah of giluch. Now, related discussion. I'm Rabbi Yisrael Chanina. He says Nazir shekala lo yamav. If you have a Nazir, and he finished all the days of Naziris. He's done already. He finished. He's on the day that he's going to bring his karbanas, which is always after you finish Naziris. So he says, Loika ala tuma. If this guy becomes tummy before he brings his karbanas, he's going to get lashes. Now, as Tais explains, he's not going to demolish his Naziris he counted, because he already finished already. Although we brought on Daf Tezayim and Aleph that if it becomes tummy on day 101, it's going to be 6 to 30 days. That says Tais specifically on day 101, because that's a Gzeira Atu Yom Shleishim, which that is the Yom Tekalachas Day Raisa, which is really you really finish day 29, and day 30 is the one, and because the confusion that was we learned some Daf Hema Beis. But at day 102, that's not going to be Seiser. Taisa says something controversial over here, which Rabbi Kivega says it seems to be not like a different Taisa. Day 31 also wouldn't be Seiser, or the other name. But the point is that when you're at day 102, it's not being Seiser, you're Naziris, but you're going to get Malchus for making yourself tummy. What do you mean? Yeah, anytime a person becomes, meaning for Nazir, for do you have meaning? Yeah, I mean you can have to be Matar yourself. Yeah, you can have to be. Yeah.
But he has to bring.
Is that Dafka? You're saying aren't those the Karbonis? I mean, isn't that what it is? But is that only if you have to start over? I mean, because he didn't bring his Karbonis, he didn't bring his Karbonis. He would have to be Matar himself and go through that whole procedure, and then do his then just bring his carbon. That's what Tais is pointing out. He wouldn't start over again. But let's just finish this idea, because Rabbi Shloimy is saying an interesting halacha. He says that you can get malchus for the tumah, but let's say you didn't bring your carbon yet, which you're not yet finished yet. If you cut your hair or you drink wine, which obviously tekalachas is not that tekalachas, whatever, but then you're not going to get malchus for that. So the Gemara wonders, what's the pshat? Ma'ishna tumah the lucky. Why are you saying that the guy, even though he's day 102 already, he finished on day 100? Why are you saying he's going to get malchus? Because the Pasuk says in Bamidbar Kol Yemei Hizir Hashem, all the days that he's in Nazir to Hashem, which the Rosh points out that the word kol is a ribui. Al nafshes meis lo yav. It says that all the days he's Nazir to Hashem, al nafshes meis lo yav. He's not supposed to be mitamal ameisim. So that's the word kol is l'rabos yom shlachem aleis. It's including the days after you're already finished, because the Torah is telling you, v'timei reish nizrei. It's the days that his Naziris is dependent on his head. In other words, he already finished his days in Naziris, as Rashi explains, and he's not really a Nazir right now, it's just on his head, that he didn't take the haircut yet. Still, you see that he's forewarned regarding Tumah. That it's Kiyam Shalif from Neimalais, it's just like the days before he finishes, because you have the reboot of the word Kal. So why is that Dafka din in Tumah? If that's the case, he should be liable for also the haircutting, because Amar Rahman, we have a pasuk over there, Kol, also a Kol. Kol Yemei Ned in Israel, all the days of his vow of Nazir, Talo Yabal Arishay, should not have a razor go over his head. So you see, Tekalachas also has last Yom Shalach Melois to make the days after you finish Kim Shalom Melois, like days before you finish. Visu, in the other category of wine, you also have a Kol. It says Kol Yemei Nizrei, all the days of his Naziris. Mikol Eshas Megefa Yain, whatever's made from the grape of the wine. Last Yom Shalach Melois, that also has the word Kol. Last Yom Shalach Melois, Kim Shalom Melois, should make the days after you finish, like days before. So why only getting last Shabbat Tumah and not for Teglachas and Yain? Says the Getin Tam of Tesvav Meralev. Says the Gemara Shani Hacha here by Tumah is different. Why is he getting lashes over here? Because Amar Chman Torah says, "V'timei roish nizrei." He's going to make impure the head of his naziris. What do you mean the head of his naziris? Misha nizrei talaloi b'roishai. Someone that is naziris is dependent on his head. Meaning, he already finished his naziris, what's called la'acham alois. He only has naziris on his head, meaning that he didn't cut his hair. Then we're saying he's going to get lashes for the tumah, because that's the pasuk says, "V'timei roish nizrei." Where does it say roish nizrei? That's totally in the roish, only regarding tumah. However, says Taisus, if he becomes tummy after he brought his karbanas, then he would not be obligated, according to the one who holds taglachas na ma'akiv, because this drasha is only before you bring your karban, and it's called naziris that depends on your head, even though you didn't bring your karbanas yet, because in his own body, the only thing he has left to do is taglachas. But let's say if he drinks wine or cuts his hair, that is not liable for, because we have no pasuk like we have by Tumah. We only have this pasuk by Tumah. But the Gemara has one final question. Meisvei, the Gemara contradicts this halacha in the following brisa. You, Rabbi Yisrael Chanina, are telling me that if you're la'acham alois, you're only going to get malchus on Tumah, not on teglachas or on yain. But the brisa clearly says not like that. Meisvei, Nazir shekol yoma, but the Nazir already finished all his days already. Says the Braisa Asal Legalech. He's not allowed to go ahead and cut his hair before he has the blood of the carbon sprayed, because the mitzvah is to cut your hair when you have the blood sprayed. If you do any one of the three karbanas, you're yaitza, but you have to have the blood sprayed. So you're not allowed to cut your hair, neither v'lishtas yain, not to drink wine, but tamal mesim, tamal mesim. V'im gilach, if you did this violation, this stira, if you cut your hair, b'shas yain, drink wine, but tamal mesim become tamal mesim, and it doesn't say only tamal mesim, it says all the other two also. It says the Braisa is a seifik esar bam. He's going to get 40 lashes. So obviously, like the Mefarish explains, obviously the word kol is also a ribui not only for la'acham alois of tumah, but it's also a ribui for the other ones also, and they're all included in this halacha, and therefore you're going to get lashes for them all. Thank you to any time for hosting us.